Let's talk about the big audit. The big audit. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, is cracking the federal government open. And boy, oh boy, are they finding some interesting things out. They are finding some interesting things out. What are you laughing about?
That's what DOGE is.
Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, it's named after the Doge meme. That's where they got the...
I thought Elon Musk was doing something with the Dogecoin.
That's what it came from, was the Dogecoin. That's where they get. They're just trolling everybody. It's a joke, but they're finding out. They're identifying a bunch of ways. Now, let me make this clear. The left and the establishment are losing their collective minds about this. They are losing their collective minds because they don't want to be audited. Isn't that funny? That the people that just hired 88,000 new IRS agents to audit you don't want to be audited themselves? Because if you remember, they spent every time we raised any type of concern that they were going to send these 88,000 new IRS agents after the middle class, they'd go, well, if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to worry about. So quit crying. If you're not cheating on your taxes, you don't have to worry about these new IRS agents. Well, I guess that's a two-way street, sweetheart. If you don't have anything to worry about, why are you worried about these guys auditing the IRS, auditing the USAID, auditing the FBI, auditing the Pentagon? What are you concerned about? And we're going to break down just the absurd things that they spent money on. Also, let's dispel this nonsense right now. Elon Musk is not acting as a dictator. Elon Musk has no power. Elon Musk has not cut any funds. Elon Musk is a consultant. The same way that if I hire a marketing consultant to my business, they can come in and advise me on 100 different things to do. But if I don't want to do them, they can't do anything. Now, I may give that marketing consultant, say, hey, I trust you. My marketing department is a disaster right now. Do what you got to do. Here's the keys to the car. And that'll obviously come with some limitations. But that's more or less what Donald Trump has done with Elon Musk here. He is a consultant to the federal government looking to identify and eliminate waste. And boy, oh boy, has he done this. He has no power. He can't pass legislation. He can't veto legislation. He is merely exposing the nefarious activities that our own government is up to on our dime. And half of you retards are pissed off about it. All right, let's break down the bill. First off, play what Chuck Schumer said here about them looking into USAID, which is the U.S. government's foreign aid department, which we'll talk about the controversy around that in a little bit. Go ahead.
Also know this is just the beginning. If DOGE attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies.
You're starting to get it, buddy. That's exactly what's going to happen next. We appreciate the forward thinking. Because here's the thing. Schumer's one of them leading the charge, raising hell about being audited and how horrible it is, right? So all those agencies that he just listed, those are the ones they need to go look at next. Because whatever the hell this guy's being defensive of is one of them that is cooking the books and hiding some bullshit from us. And that needs to be identified and cut out. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that all of those agencies should be totally abolished. No, we need most of them to perform various tasks, but that doesn't mean that they're immune from an audit. There's no private company, specifically not one that's supposed to oversee as much red tape as government, that's immune from audits. Why on earth would these agencies be? So yeah, you got it, buddy. The intelligence agencies and the IRS are the ones we need to audit next, and they've already started doing that. Mia, did you know that the IRS spends $230,000 a month on Starbucks cinnamon roast K-Cups for the office Keurigs? $230,000 a month on K-Cups.
Oh, I didn't hear the 1,000 part. I just heard the 200.
And that sounded absurd.
No, that didn't. I was like, why are you getting mad about that?
230,000.
That's a lot.
230,000 a month.
Okay, that is.
Hey, what? You could cut that in half by just getting the store brand K-Cups. I'm not even saying you got to go to Drip Coffee here. You could cut that in half with the store brand K-Cups right there. They're spending on the disposable little like coffee cups that you get. You want to know how much they're spending per cup? Per cup.
Per cup, $2.
Per cup. They are spending $1,280 on disposable coffee cups. Per cup.
Each cup costs
Each cup they are spending $1,200 on, as identified by these audits at the IRS.
So one little plastic cup.
Pretend this is a plastic cup. $1,200.
How does a little plastic cup cost? Like the contents inside of it, or
The
just
cup
the actual
itself.
cup?
The cup itself.
Is it made of gold?
No, this is called money laundering, kids. They cook the books on things. They lie about how much they're spending on legitimate purchases, and then they can this way they can turn around. And we're going to show a whole bunch of this with USAID in a second here. Then they can turn around and spend it on God knows what. Some of that includes buying off politicians, money being funneled under the table, and regime change in foreign countries. A lot. What you're going to find out is all of these organizations that they're auditing are funneling money to the CIA. All of them. The IRS is not spending $1,280 on disposable plastic cups. They're not. They're not spending they might be spending $230,000 a month on the Starbucks. That might be a thing they're legitimately doing. It won't be for long, though. The Air Force is not spending $45 on a coffee cup. The Army is not spending $800 on a hammer. This is money that they're writing off as hammers and coffee cups and things like that. This is money that's being funneled to regime change. It's being funneled to intelligence agencies overseas to do God knows what to God knows who. The Pentagon spends $600 million a year on sushi. $600 million a year on sushi from the Pentagon. Again, not going to sushi, guys. It's not going to sushi. Now, here's USAID, which, by the way, is 0.7% of our budget. So if this is the shit they're doing with 0.7% of our budget, then, oh my God, what are they doing with the rest of it? Why have we not audited all these organizations a long time ago? So here's what they spent. Politico, and this is from your money from the federal government. Politico, the magazine that ran attack piece after attack piece after attack piece on Donald Trump and other Republican candidates throughout the last 2 years, has received $34.3 million, Politico, to publish headlines like this. Pull these up real quick. Oh, sorry, next one. Politico, yeah. So to post things about J.D. Vance's beard. Yes, Vance's beard matters. Vance is the first White House wannabe to wear facial hair in 80 years. Research indicates that voters see beards as more masculine. That can be positive to some, but to others, especially women, it can be negative, conveying aggression and opposition to feminist ideals. As compared to Tim Walz's eyes, they show as passion. Eye popping can sometimes be seen as a sign of surprise, but for Walz, it simply revealed his emotional intensity. During an exchange about abortion, the dynamic and emphatic facial motion grabs the viewer's attention. For Walz, it gave extra weight to his feelings and held our gaze.
Didn't Obama have facial hair?
He had a little bit of stubble. Not the same, though. Not like Vance. So they got they got money to fund that crap. New York Times got 50 million, AP 19.5, Reuters 9 million, BBC, the British news channel, 3.3 million. So here's what they do. They funnel money, and we'll break down the money laundering in a second, the things they're lying about spending money on. They funnel money to fund regime change and buy off politicians and do God knows what with. And then they pay these news organizations money so that they're beholden to them, so that they can be the propaganda arm of the establishment. We've already broken down how in 2020 Time News or Time Magazine released an article about how all of the media companies and all of the tech companies more or less colluded to prevent Donald Trump from winning. And now we find out that they've been receiving money from a rogue government office, The Congress is not approving these expenditures, guys. The president isn't even approving. Biden wasn't even approving these expenditures. USAID was giving out money as it saw fit and lying about it. And they wonder why so many of them are getting fired and sent home. It's because they're worried you're going to destroy your computers and burn your hard drive so they can't find out where this money's going. This is an organization. They were giving out money as they chose, as they saw fit. 97% of them voted Democrat, donated to Democrat candidates. 97% of their employees did. So they fund the media wing of it, they fund the money laundering wing of it, and then they fund their little pet projects like we're about to talk about, like $5 million to Sean Penn's media company, or $2 million to strengthen trans-affirming care in Guatemala, $40 million to fund DEI scholarships in Burma, $500,000 to expand atheism in Nepal. I don't even know what the fuck that means. $1 million to a DC resident who supports developmental democracy and innovation inclusive development hub programs protecting LGBTQ individuals. $400K to LGBTQ charities in Honduras. $70,000 to fund DEI musicals in Ireland. $420 million to Palestine, which none of they can prove went anywhere. Most of it was hijacked by Hamas and used to fund the war effort. None of it actually went as humanitarian aid to the people in Palestine. Again, I don't even know what this means. $520 million to consultant-driven investments in Africa. So $520 million to hire people to consult. Consult is another word for money laundering. There are some consulting companies that have specific tasks, and yes, they do them. But if you just if you see politicians or big corporations just paying consulting agencies, that's usually money being funneled somewhere that it's not supposed to be. Little fun fact there, free game. $300 million to DEI contractors. $2 billion to Somalia over the last 2 years, $40 million to build schools in Jordan, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million for reintegration gift bags for deported Central Americans, $1.5 million for DEI in Serbia, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, millions of dollars to the EcoHealth Alliance, which is the Wuhan lab leak where COVID came from, $1.2 billion in awards to undisclosed recipients that they don't even know where the hell it went. They don't know who these people are. They're not going to tell you who they are. They're a secret. Fuck you. You don't get to know. They don't even have any record of it. $1.2 billion. Throw your arms up. This is the shit they're willing to admit. Where did the $1.2 billion that they're not willing to admit go? That's what I want to know. This is my favorite, though. $20 million. $20 million to fund a Sesame Street production in Iraq. This is where your money's going. This is the shit. Joe Biden hired 88,000 new IRS agents to audit your taxes, to come up with more money to fund. And this is less than 1% of the federal fucking budget. Imagine the waste elsewhere. Imagine the waste elsewhere. This is a rogue organization that makes its own decisions. You've got unelected bureaucrats who absurdly donate money to one specific party, doing whatever the hell they want. And it's money laundering because you can believe one of two things. One of two things, both of them should upset you. If they don't upset you, you're an idiot. You can either believe that we are spending $47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia, or you can believe that maybe we sent $2,000 to a transgender-themed opera in Colombia, and then $45,000 to fund regime change over in Africa. And that's really what this is. Both of those are bad, by the way. Both of those are incredible wastes of money that we should not be partaking in. And that's, I mean, if you look at this, these countries in Africa, these countries in the Middle East, these countries in South America, in Asia, these are very religious countries. So even if this money is going to these countries, if this is truly going to fund LGBTQ causes in Afghanistan or whatever the case may be, that on its own is a form of regime change because you're actively pumping information and propaganda into people that will turn them against the government. That on its own is regime change. The CIA doesn't just go in like the movies and shoot the leader and leave. No, they usually start these things as grassroots movements. Anytime you see a movement pop up that's anti-whatever government that's in power somewhere else in the world, more often than not, either the United States, the EU, or Russia has played some type of role in the regime change. They all three do it. We've been doing it to other. That's why I laugh when people talk about interference in our elections, like we haven't been doing that for decades now. So that's all this is. This is just another way to fund regime change. We've also got a historical precedent with USAID. A couple different instances. Cuba, they did it. They formed in 2009 the Zunzaneo program, which was initially a social media platform funded by USAID, which was referred to as Cuban Twitter, initially offered non-political content to attract users, but later aimed to incite political dissent and mobilize opposition against the Cuban government. Again, I'm not a fan of Cuba, but I think we should stay the hell out of other countries' affairs. In Ukraine, for 23 years, the U.S. government sent $5 billion to support political campaigns in Ukraine, which toppled the president and now got us to the shit show we're in right now, which I covered earlier in the show. And then you've also got in Ethiopia, following the overthrow of the military-led Marxist regime, USAID resumed its involvement in Ethiopia, focusing on democracy and government initiatives, continuing to donate money to causes over there to install a puppet state. So this is a pattern of behavior. They have been used indirectly at best to spread propaganda to other countries, to help us destabilize the region and overthrow the regimes. At the absolute worst, used as a money laundering front for the CIA to do this crap. That's what this is. I mean, this is criminal. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, though. And this is the one I'm talking about. Right here. Taliban fighters with RPGs and a USAID backdrop in the background. There you go. There's your tax dollars hard at work. So, Mia, are you still proud to be a tax-paying American given this information?
Yes.
The Iraqi kids really wanted Sesame Street. You know, and you guys know I'm not a socialist. I'm not one of these government should just give out handouts to everybody people. But when I see the fact that you've got kids in this country that are literally fucking starving, and we're funding $20 million to build a television program for kids in a country that wouldn't piss on us if we were on fire, that boils my blood. That pisses me off to no end. I mean, this is criminal. This is criminal. The reason these freaks are so upset that this is being audited is because they know heads are going to roll. And not only are people going to lose their jobs, which they all should, people are going to go to fucking jail over this. And they should. They should. Now, I would implore Donald Trump and Elon Musk and anyone else that's looking into this to watch your back, because the last guy that came for the intelligence agencies the way these guys have took a convertible ride in Dallas. So I would beg them to be careful. Be careful who you trust around you. Be careful where you go in public. Make sure you have a good security team set up. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is what so now countries are getting cut off. The aid's getting cut off. And I'm not saying everything that USAID does is a bad thing. I don't have a problem when they want to send vaccinations over to Africa. I don't have an issue with that. Absolutely. That in my opinion, that's a good use of our money. I don't have an issue with that, right? I have an issue with that when they lie about it and half of that money actually goes to weapons and funding rebel groups in those African countries to destabilize the region and topple the governments. That's where my problem lies with it. Speaking of Africa, now that the gravy train has stopped, here's what the former president of Kenya had to say about all the world leaders pissing and moaning that the U.S. isn't going to give them money anymore.
People the other day crying, oh, I don't know, Trump has removed money. He said he's not giving us any more money. Watu wanalia. Why are you crying? It's not your government, it's not your country. He has no reason to give you anything. I mean, hey, you don't pay taxes in America. He's appealing to his people. Shauri yenu bana. This is a wake-up call for you to say, okay, what are we going to do to help ourselves? Instead of crying, tujiulize, what are we going to do? Haya ametoa hiyo pesa, sasa tutafanya namna gani jameni? What are we going to do? Yeah?
That's enough.
To support ourselves.
I wish people in America, more people in America had that mentality about their personal lives. Big Daddy government ain't going to come to the rescue for you. What are you going to do? I'm not saying you got to found a multi-million-dollar company, but what are you going to do? That's the spirit of free market capitalism right there. Is that, I mean, if you look back at when the government gets involved and they guarantee families that they're going to pay all their bills, what you get is you create a generational poverty cycle. and people never get off the welfare. They just continue to stay. I mean, you know about this. You've seen this firsthand. That's what happens. People get used to the welfare. They know it's not great, but it's comfortable. This is how, and this is their lives. And it's not the worst thing in the world, but it ain't good. And they just wallow like that. And then their kids wallow and their grandkids wallow. And maybe one or two of them will break the cycle, but it never stops because you've created people that are addicted to government welfare. And we've got this same thing going on in the international community. There's a lot of countries, and it ain't just in Africa. It ain't just in South America. In fact, I am specifically talking about Europe and Canada and Mexico, where these countries have relied on the U.S. to fund various aspects of how their country works for so long that they forget how to actually function on their own. And if this is any indicator, the gravy train's going to stop soon for all of you guys. All of you. We're done funding your military, Sweden. We're done. Norway, you're going to have to figure out how to pay for universal health care on your own because we're done paying for it.
Your way.
Your way. Is that how they pronounce it? Oh.
No, like your way. Like
you better pay for it your way.
Your way.
Yep, that's right. And here's the thing. We may still pay for some of this stuff, but it's going to come with strings attached. The days of the United States being everybody's bank account and being the doormat of the international community are over. Because here's the reality, guys. These countries, at best, don't give a shit about us, and at worst, fucking hate us. They're just happy to take our money. They're the bratty teenagers, the bratty teenage stepkids that just know daddy's bank account's always open. And as long as the checks clear the bank, they don't care. They may hate your guts, but the second the money stops, they're going to go on and do their own thing. Because they don't actually like us. They're not actually our friends, these countries aren't. They are using us. We're like the guy that gets really rich from a poor neighborhood and all his homies trying to hang around him, getting him to pay their rent. Did you know when Lamar Odom was in the hospital, right? This I remember I was like 18, 19 years old when this was going on. Lamar Odom, he dated, which one did he date? Which one of the American Royals?
Chloe.
The white trash Royals, Chloe. When he overdosed on, Lamar Odom was an NBA player. When he overdosed on crack cocaine, he was in the hospital. Khloe Kardashian was the only person at his bedside. The one who didn't need his money.
Who was divorced to him.
The only one at his bedside in the hospital. Lamar Odom was paying 25 people's rents. 25 different people's rents. And over 50 people's cell phone, utility, internet bills, etc. This guy was funding the lifestyle of over 75 people, either friends or family members, and not one of them could even be bothered to show up to the hospital when he nearly died of a drug overdose. The people who are leeching off of you and mooching off of us in the international community, all these countries, they don't give two shits about us. If the United States completely imploded, if a meteor hit us tomorrow and wiped the whole country off the map, not a single one of these countries would host a national day of mourning or a parade. You know, not a parade's a bad way to say it, but like any type of mourning ceremony, I guess I should say. Not a single one of these countries would put these together. The only thing they would be worried about is where does our next check come from? Who's going to protect us when the wolves are at the door? That's it. That is all they care about us for, and it's about fucking time we stop acting as the doormat for the international community. We can't even pay our own bills here. We can't. We are the guy who is up to his eyeballs in credit card debt, but when his scumbag cousin comes around asking for $300, he somehow finds the money to give to him. That's what the United States is in the international community right now. We can't afford to pay our own bills. It's time to stop paying the bills for the rest of the fucking world. I also found out that the FBI had nearly 40%, 38% of its full-time agents focused 100% on investigating January 6th. So while registered sex offenders who weren't in this country legally were running around raping people and setting women on fire, The FBI was really focused on the big issues. Makes you feel safe, doesn't it? Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.